All right, everyone, we are back. We're just going to dive right into it. We talked about legality around, co-living, what counties, have what restrictions. We talked about buy box. We talked about pad split versus self-management. We've talked about a lot of stuff. And as we just had a quick break, we both were like, this is amazing. Like we're learning so much from each other. So like if you're not have at least 4 pages of notes, you're probably not listening. So go back and re-listen to that first part, and this will be part 2 or part 3. Let's just dive into it. So let's start with, if you are self-managing, who do you really need on your team? I'll just kick us off because I'm someone that has only a few properties. And what I really needed to get started was myself. And like Pascal mentioned in the part 1, was figure out like this, learn the game, learn what people want, learn what people need. And that's going to help you a lot in the future. So when you delegate, you know what kind of task, what kind of time allocated for that person who's going to help serve you in that sense that you don't have to do everything yourself anymore, but yourself. You're probably going to be the main person. Number 2, if you can have a house manager, we can talk about that. And then number 3 would be cleaners. Personally, and Pascal's going to look at me like, what? You have professional cleaners come every single week?
Mhm.
Yes, weekly, Pascal. Top that. You thought you had me.
That
So
facial expression was
yes.
priceless.
So for me, just a recap, you're going to be doing a lot when you first start, but guess what? That's more money in your pocket. If you want to quit your job, that's more cash flow for you. It's a good thing. Number 2, house manager. We can kind of talk about that a little bit. Number 3, cleaners. I personally do every week. I think that's probably overkill for most people. Maybe even once a month would be good. We can talk about that a little bit. And number 4, just have a handyman that's kind of decent and good that can fix a door lock if it doesn't work, or I don't know, little things like I talked about in the last one. I don't know how to hang a picture frame. So if you're like me, you want to have a decent handyman on call just whenever you need them,
Yeah.
and just pay them by hour. Mine's $25 an hour, so it's not that expensive. But let's dive into it. Wherever you want to take it, Sam, it's on
Yeah.
you.
So the question on the table is like, who do you need on your team? And I think to start, right, to get this ball rolling, not to overthink it is important. And so as long as you've got someone good helping you acquire that property, that's you're going to be your realtor. Maybe you're working with a wholesaler. Maybe you're trying to get an off-market deal. I know, Jesse, you have a badass story about how you got an off-market deal that you should make sure is shared. But um, yeah, I think just having someone good help you acquire that property and kind of work through the inspection on that property and make sure you're not buying something that's gonna like flood the next week. Like just the right, there's some of the basics, right, of making sure you're buying a solid asset. It's well taken care of. And I think that's one of the reasons Pascal, and I know we have it similar of like 1960s or newer, right? In the 60s and 70s, a lot of building codes around the United States got updates in terms of what was required for plumbing, what was required in electrical. And so you've kind of got a lot of newer updated stuff, and you're just going to have less problems with a newer home. So I think that's key. And then, yeah, man, I'm just going to reinforce what you said. I think you need. I'm not even sure if you're just doing 1 or 2 homes and you're trying to get out of the rat race. You don't necessarily even need a house manager. Like you can be that house manager, we're talking, 10 people, maybe 10 to 12 to 13 people in 2 homes, and so you can take care of that many people and field their concerns. But if you're not handy, then yeah, get someone on your team that can fix stuff, and preferably someone that you have a deal worked out where you've got one price for them to go out in normal working hours, and they're gonna ask for a lot probably, but
Mm.
it's worth it. An after hours price. So if one of your members calls you and says, I can't get the toilet to shut off and it's filling up my bathtub, and you aren't the person to know. I mean, I know a little bit about that because I did construction growing up. So I would be one of those guys to drive over probably, right? But like, if you're not that person and you're getting started in this game without a lot of capital or cash, then like you need that person on your team that can go out, fix stuff, that knows a little bit of plumbing, knows a little bit of electrical, and can go out in the middle of the night, even if it costs you a hefty fee. That's better than that house filling up with water that night. So those are a couple of my thoughts on who you need to really rock it and get this thing started.
So
Yeah, I
good. One
agree.
one one little thing real quick is that I've had people in the house be like, "Oh, Jesse, I can fix it." And then I just throw them like a gift card and they love it. So I think,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's great.
like ask the house. Like we have a group chat, we can talk about that. But hey, XYZ is broken. Anyone want to fix it? I'll throw you $25. Boom, it's
Awesome.
fixed the next day or that
Awesome.
night. So
Yeah.
just something I want to throw out there. Pascal, go ahead.
Yeah, I like that. I've had, I think what Sam's mentioned about a handyman, what you've mentioned, right? I think I'm not a handyman. I'm also away, so I think having someone there. But I really like Dan Martell's like buy back your time.
So
I
good.
think it's easy to want to get excited and start hiring a team and trying to like scale your portfolio, but that's not really the best way to use your resources, right? Like you if you're spending all of your time like looking for deals or yeah, I don't even know. Like for me, it was handling tenants, that is the thing that took up most of my time and was the first thing I outsourced after the handyman because, so usually, yeah, you should. That's how I think about that. I think if you wanted to play pro, um, I constantly think about, okay, there's the startup stage where you're just trying to get your first or second home. But if you're someone who has a couple homes and you're listening to this, like to me, I'm always asking myself, how do the pros play? And to me, how the pros play is they have three plumbers, three electricians, three cleaning people. They've got three of everything. And like I've got like for me, I've got my cleaner and my maintenance person, they're my go-to. But when we have a plumbing issue or we have an electrical issue, we always get three quotes and they're all different, and so if you're trying to run a business, it's much better when now I have an assistant that goes and does all the three quotes, versus me. It does take a lot of time, but that's how you save money, right? So I constantly think like, what stage are you in? Are you in the beginning stage or are you in the, I'm like, I've got some things going and I'm ready to go pro.
I love that.
Well said. Well said.
Man, that was just great advice overall, just in business right there.
Yeah. That's a great
All
question
right.
to be asked. That's a great question to be asking. Like, that's a solid question. I wrote that down. Like, how do the pros play?
Mm-hmm.
And you can be scrappy at the beginning. I think you almost got to be scrappy at the beginning, right? Because you're trying to get in, you're trying to, but then as you grow and as you scale and as you get big, um, it's a beautiful question.
Let's talk marketing. Lead flow. That's something that I've definitely struggled with in the past. Still don't have an answer. I've tried a lot of different things.
Put me
I
in,
know
coach.
Sam might be someone, so let's ask Sam.
Put me in. I think we got 850 last month. We're cruising.
Sheesh.
Yeah, this is something that we decided. So yeah, the story is, I'll pull back the curtain a little bit. The story is I was off building a coaching company, had a property management company. Property management company was steadily and slowly growing. Pascal, you and I can kind of relate on these property management stories, but like it was growing, it was expanding. My eyes weren't on it, wasn't focused. And frankly, it was just, again, like the whole theme of this conversation, guys, is these are some of the nuances. And I hope you were taking notes, like Jesse was saying, because there's so many little nuances and things that you want to get right as best you can. And so be there and learn and have that mentoring, have those coaching. But anyway, my eyes weren't on it. And I just kind of like woke up one day and was like, holy crap, like this thing went from 150 doors to 350 doors. I haven't paid attention to it. The team was built for 150 and now it needs to be built for 350 and we got to freaking rock and roll. So we just turned our focus on and we put like massive amounts of focus into building a lead gen team. I'm proud to say we filled 46 rooms last month and we're on track.
Wow.
This we're gonna crush it again this now granted we should have had 46 rooms to fill, but we do. We did. And we're growing. We're like growing. We're adding these big homes, we're adding these 10-bedroom homes, and it's exciting. But lead gen was one of the things that I brought a guy named Justin in. And Justin has really had a big focus. So I got to give him a huge shout out. If he's listening to this, he's been doing
He's awesome. I
really
just had a
amazing.
call with him. He's an amazing dude.
Yeah, that's awesome. Justin's an amazing dude. Yeah. And Pascal, you'll meet him too. Cause some of the things you're saying, I'm like, I need Justin and Pascal to connect. This is good shit. So we've done a couple of things. There's a million platforms you can post a room on. There's Spare Room, there's Roomies, there's Roomster, there's Zumper, there's Craigslist, there's Facebook Marketplace. Still is probably the biggest though. The problem is you can't post to Facebook Marketplace if you're a business. You can't post from a business page to Facebook Marketplace. So the way that we hacked this, and I really hope Facebook's not listening to this, there's two ways you can hack this. I've got a buddy who owns 400 rooms in San Francisco. The way he hacked it is he has a team of virtual assistants remote log into a room of computers and then they post and they do all the things and they create fake profiles and they warm up the accounts, and it's a lot of work. But this guy's like a big tech guy, and so that's just like, he's cool with doing all that work. We didn't want to do that. We wanted to do it more authentically and frankly just a little bit more in integrity. So what we did is we just went out and said, guys, we're going to create a Facebook army. So I'm happy to report we've got like 43 people in our Facebook army. They post on our behalf. We give them the pictures. We tell them exactly what to say. And as soon as they get someone ping them and says they're interested in a room on Facebook Marketplace, so they're posting from their personal Facebook profile. And if they get a room filled, they get $200 if the person fills the room. And what ends up happening is as soon as they get their name and their phone number, they give that lead over to my team and they tell them like, oh, John from our team will be reaching out. And John, one of our virtual assistants, reaches out and sets the appointment and shows the room. So I think what we've
hold up. No one, this is exclusive right here.
That's
Ladies
right.
and gentlemen,
this is behind the curtain shit, right?
Sam is running this like a top-notch organization. You see, he's got like lead setters and, you know, appointment, you know.
But at the same time, this is something that I could do with only a few homes. Like, this is something that people listening can also do with just their friends, because you're so right about the whole Facebook thing. You got to have an account that's like, looks legit, post this type of stuff. And all you're doing is getting the leads there. They just probably ask, what's your name and phone number? Someone on our team will reach out to you. Boom. And then they get compensated. This is, Sam, I knew you were smart, Sam, but this is now next level. Okay, keep going.
You got to be creative to overcome solutions. You got to be creative to overcome problems, right? So, yeah, I think ultimately what I want to share with people is you want to be in all the windows. People are going to be window shopping. You need to be extremely responsive. What I found about the co-living, I think PadSplit did a study on this where they said, what's the number one reason people, number one thing people appreciate about PadSplit or something like that. And they said it was speed of moving. Like, I want to be able to find a place and I want to be able to move in super fast. And so you want to be able to cater to that, I think, with this model. Maybe a little less with the higher end model that you're going after, Jesse, but I think you want to be able to cater to that model, to that demographic by having a good speed of moving and responding really quickly. You want to be in all the windows. And ultimately it's a numbers game of how many leads can I create? And then that's going to produce a certain number of people that want to go look at the room. And we still do in-person showings. We might try to move away from that. We're experimenting with that, but we still do in-person showings as of right now. And that's going to produce a certain number of people that then pay the application, fill out an application that get through your screening process and actually make it into the room. So it becomes a numbers game, right? So those are a couple of my thoughts. I mean, we have scripts, and I know, Pascal, maybe you're going to share some of those of like, hey, like what kind of calls are we having with people? Because there is a process. You want to do a background check. You want to do a credit check. You want to make sure this person going in, and for us, it's a 12-month commitment on the front end. We're asking for a 12-month commitment. So it's, you know, make sure this person is a dang good fit. They fully understand all the house rules of the house. You don't want to get greedy like I did one time. My first ever houses, and the guy was like, I can pay. And I just raised the rent like $50. And I was like, okay, no agreement, no nothing. The guy ends up squatting, being the worst tenant ever. Right. And so it's like, you want to make sure you've got all your ducks in a row. So, I'll end kind of this with one big hack that you can use for where to post your room for rent. Go to your city and just go to Google and type in room for rent, Scottsdale, Arizona, room for rent, and see what comes up on the first page of Google. And usually those are the websites that are already optimized. Though that's what's coming up for everybody else who's searching room for rent in Charlotte, North Carolina. So you want to be posted on all of those places, if you can, that are already on page one of Google. So it's kind of a hack for figuring out like what's working in your city already. And then maybe one more thing that just came to mind that I'll share. We get this question a lot. People are like, well, how do I know it'll work in my city? Right? Someone that's listening to this that wants to start their first home. Maybe PadSplit isn't in their city. So they don't know anybody in their city doing room rentals. One of the most effective strategies we found for doing this is a simple test ad. And it's a little scrappy, but it works. Before we go into any new market, we test 3 different price points. So we create an ad on Facebook Marketplace before we buy the home. We take some pictures. If anybody reaches out to me, I'll give you some co-living pictures you can post. We don't disclose the address because on Facebook Marketplace, you cannot disclose the address. You post it out there. You put some copy. You put exactly what you're trying to do. You know, you put your ad out. and then you just see how many hits you get. And what we do is we actually respond to every one of those hits and say, actually, we're creating a waiting list for this home. Please fill out this form. And then like you'll be at the top of our waiting list. So we try to respond to everybody before we take it down. And we'll run a higher price point, a medium price point, a lower price point, and we'll just get data on how many people are responding. If 2 people respond in 2 weeks, like, okay, like we might need to mix it up. And if the lower price point comes in, 100 people respond, now we know kind of where that price point's going to be and how many people are responding. So that's a little bit of a hack we've used before going into new markets to kind of get that confidence that everybody wants and needs, so they can go in, they can buy the home, they can fill the home. Everybody wants to know, can I fill the home, right? So those are a few takeaways and a few thoughts that we've learned over the last few weeks. I wish Justin was on. He could talk about this for hours. He's been deep diving into it the last couple of months, but those are some thoughts.
So good.
I haven't done the testing of the different price points. That's really interesting. I like that. I wanted to echo what Sam said around, what's like another thing you can do to ensure or feel more confident that the asset you're about to buy is the right one. And I did this exactly with Diego on our first several homes. Like what we did is when we were thinking about buying a home, I guess I also don't know how legal this is, but we took the photos of the home on the MLS and then posted them on Craigslist at a certain price point. And then we had a Google form and we would see how many people would apply. And so then we knew like, okay, like we got 20 applications within 3 days for our $700 a month price point, which is what we're putting in our pro forma for what we can rent. Like, cool. I feel pretty comfortable that I'm going to be able to rent this room out for $700.
Yeah.
Oh, it takes you, 7 or 2 weeks and you only get 5 applications. Like, okay, that room might not be priced correctly. And that greatly, if like, those are all simple free tests you can do to get that confidence. Yeah. Going back on this topic, I did all these, I did at first when I did it on my own. Now I'm on pad split. I think I have to say it, like you have to, it's marketing, right? Just like when you go onto Airbnb, you look for nice photos and things staged, and like photos are the biggest difference maker in what you do and have the biggest effect. And I wanted to quickly just kind of show what, when I'm on pad split, you have to think about it in the same way as on Airbnb. What am I doing that makes my profile stick out compared to all the other ones on the platform? And so what I've learned over time is I added a little logo to, make it a little different. No one else has a little icon or whatever. And then I realized, what do people care about? So best rated is social proof, right? For us, a big selling point is the walking distance from a bus stop. And then, many of the complaints I've heard from incoming tenants on the Padsplit platform who have been at another place, they'd be like, the place just wasn't cleaned or well maintained. And like the host just didn't get back to me and so I was like, great, like that's something we can do. So when I hired my property manager, she, her hours is she does like a couple hours during the day, but she's on an 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on call type schedule 5 days a week. And so that's when people are moving in. And so that's, if someone needs to get into the room and they can't reach anyone, that's a problem. But we kind of learned like, what do people care about? And then how do we orient our offering to match what the customer wants?
This is so good. Can we see some more pictures? I want to see some of the pictures that you have in there.
Yeah, sure. Happy to.
Yeah, that's a solid looking kitchen.
So this is I guess one of my properties. And same thing, I also furnish my rooms. I think
split you have to, correct?
I don't know if you have to. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you do.
But I've found that Yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons to furnishing. You know, I do think not furnishing makes sense with a longer stay. My stay is shorter. I think because they don't have to move in their stuff, there's not as much pain for them to move. So, you know, I think if you have furniture, like people can just get up and move a lot easier if they don't have to lug all their stuff and move it out and whatnot. Um, but yeah. I also have 3D tours on every single one of my properties.
Oh, this
So
is cool.
when I first got the properties done, yeah, I hired someone to go and do this, and we don't do in-person showings. So we're like, look, we've done a ton of effort. We've, you know, taken photos. We have these 3D tours, and to be frank, we just can't have like random people. First off, we don't have anyone that's gonna like meet you at the property. And by the way,
Mhm.
half the people aren't gonna show up or they're gonna be late. And you know, like and then you're disturbing all the other tenants that are there. You know, what are they going to do? Walk around, see the common area real quick, and then you know. So we've just eliminated doing any kind of tours, and it's like okay. I think the trade-off there is we might have more churn in the first, you know, 3 to 6 months, but I think the amount we're saving is yeah, I mean, you save a lot of headache and um
You have this tour this in depth. There's no
Yeah,
reason that someone needs to go do an in-person tour. If you want, go drive by the property. That's what I would say, like the most that you really would need to do.
totally.
Like
Um
this is dope. Is this Matterport?
this is a Matterport, yeah.
Okay.
And so you'll see like I have dressers in every room. I've you know, I think a new thing that I'm thinking about right now is how do I make like first impressions are everything. Pad Split also has a lot of data that like if someone has a great move-in experience, they that correlates to tenant tenure. And
Mm.
so like, you know, even little things like this thing here at the bottom, this box spring,
Hmm.
over time, these get dirty. And so you know, I think this week I'm gonna go to my team and say, like, let's go get like buy for $10 these mattress skirts so that, you know, we can just cover up any stains or dirt or whatnot. And then I've also adjusted everything to have Wi-Fi locks. So
Yeah,
every
talk
single,
talk to me about that. This is I need this.
yeah, this is old school. This is a padlock. And that's just, you know, I operate everything remotely. You know, my
Right.
property manager needs to be able to open the door from the Philippines to someone that's trying to get in their room. You know, like it's been a complete game changer now that we've switched. That's been a huge piece. And, God, there was one other thing. Oh yeah, so ingenuity. So you talked about filling rooms. Uh, we actually got all of our furniture from a hotel sale. Um, so hotel like certain hotels go out of business or they're
that's
changing
smart.
like they're
It's real
renovating
smart.
everything and they're just getting rid of all the furniture. And so we got massive like everything here. Everything is all from that.
Yeah, this is so
Super,
nice.
super smart. It's a beautiful house, man. Beautiful
What's the
house.
way that you look at and purchase furniture, Sam? Is there any hacks you have? I guess my only hack, if you are self-managing it, I would say look on Facebook Marketplace, offer up. If you're really trying to find some good deals, look at people who are moving, especially if you're doing it like when school is like moving out, like like the end of the school year. A lot of apartments, like I'm by Tempe, so these people are just like, hey, I don't want anything in my apartment. It's a two-bedroom apartment with like really nice stuff. Cool, I'll pay you 500 for everything in the house. And so that's kind of a way that I've been able to get some crazy deals. But what about you, Sam?
Yeah, my biggest advice is just don't buy furniture. That's no, I say that playfully, but I mean, it's kind of true. We really don't buy that much furniture. I mean, it's all Amazon stuff usually because we just want to be able to ship there and get it put together fast. So it's just stuff for the common area, right? Um, But I have found a good couch. If you go to really nice neighborhoods and just see what people are throwing out on like trash day, sometimes you can get some good, some good. My favorite couch that I ever got, dude, is like this leather couch was just thrown away in a neighborhood. And I remember like picking it up and throwing it on my back, this big old couch, setting it down. So you can get as scrappy as you want if you're trying to, if you're trying to really save cost. But yeah, we have a list of things that we have everybody buy from Amazon, click and point and make it look pretty, and kind of the stuff you saw in the photos I sent earlier.
So I want to actually do this as we wrap up. We could talk like we talked about for another 3 hours. This has just been amazing and fun. I appreciate you guys hopping on, but I want to answer some frequently asked questions. And I put this on my Instagram story and people reached out, asked me. So I'm like, I got to make sure we knock some of these out.
Nice.
Number one, the SOPs, which we don't have to get that detailed, but essentially, what is the process that you guys do? And Sam, maybe you can start with this one. Once you get the lead, and then what happens from the lead coming to you from someone and then them moving into the house?
Yeah, the first thing we'll do is we'll have a screening conversation with them. So the first thing we do is try to get them on the phone. So we'll get them on the phone. We have a screening conversation. In that screening conversation, at a high level, we review our requirements to move in. At a high level, we'll review the house rules. And at the end of that conversation, the goal is for us to be able to say, we kind of do it interview style to put us in control of the conversation versus them. So instead of them being like, yeah, tell me about your house. What is it? Is it, asking all these questions, it's us being like, the point of this conversation is for us to figure out if you're a good fit for us, because we're trying to build a badass community with great people in this home, shared living. Here's what co-living is, blah, 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 blah. Now, let me back up. One thing that we do before that is we send them a link. When we get a lead, we'll send them a video. It's a YouTube video. It's like a 2-minute long YouTube video that explains the concept of co-living. And we'll send that to them first and say, would you please watch this? Then we're going to jump on a call. So we send that to them first. Probably 60 to 70% of the people actually watch. The other 30%, whatever happens, we still get them on a call. And then we kind of review them. And then if that screening conversation goes well, and at the end of that call, they answer the questions correctly, they feel like it's a good fit, they want to move forward, we want to move forward, then we schedule a showing right from there. So it's phone call to showing, right? Video, phone call showing. We're not trying to make it like multiple phone calls or anything like that. At the showing, again, there's a vibe check at the showing from our showing managers. This person feel like a good fit. Keep in mind, we're moving people in for a year minimum initially, right? So it needs to be it's a vibe check, making sure they're good. Okay, I feel like it's a good person. And then right then and there, our person will actually help them fill out the application. Now the application is they have to pay, I think it's $40. They pay the $40. They put their social security number in, they do the background check, and then our internal team reviews all of that and then lets them know if they were approved or not. Right. But we're trying to get that application as quickly as possible. And then if they're approved, pick the move-in date, pay the rent, pay the membership fee, blah, 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 and then move in just like they would move into anybody normal. So it's not a ton of steps, but it's really like, so to recap, it's like we send them a video to make sure they know what they're getting themselves into, save time on the calls, have a pretty intense screening call. If that goes well, we interview them well and they seem like they're a good fit, schedule a showing. And at the showing, there's one more kind of check and a few questions we'll ask. And then we have them fill out the application. And just like anything else, you fill out an application for an apartment, you're going to get approved, you're going to get denied based on your credit score, based on income, based on whatever. And then you get to move in. And all that can happen pretty fast. We're approving applications. If they look at it today, we can approve their application by, this time tomorrow kind of thing.
So you have a website. Do you drive any traffic to the website? Do you do a questionnaire before the call? Or are you literally just someone's getting the number and name and then immediately jumping on a call with them?
It depends on how the lead comes in. We do we pay for Google ads. So those are there's questionnaires to make sure they're a good fit. But if they're coming from like Facebook Marketplace or some of these other sites, not always. It depends on the platform you're listing on.
Because I think my one concern in the past when I first was starting, it was just me. I was hopping on some stupid calls that just like, oh my gosh, which is good why you send that video. And I ended up basically copying that outline and did a video on my little website.
Yeah.
And so I send them to that website and then they can see the video and then they basically fill out a questionnaire. That's 5 or 6 questions, just so I understand if they're who they are before I hop on a call with them. And then also it gives me to see how legit they are. Because I would say 50% of the leads on Facebook would never fill out that questionnaire. It's just, and then I have to deal with calling them and spending that time. So do you have anything what would you say to that for people who are new? Is it worth just jumping on a call right away?
I like it. I think if you're getting, yeah, if that's an issue and you're getting more leads than you want to handle, then yeah, you can reduce the number of leads. I think for us right now, we've got a pretty solid team built out and we're expanding. You know, that's not an issue for us on the bandwidth to have these calls right now. But the video kind of weeds out, I think, a significant portion of people. But I like your model, man. I think that's great. I like that, having some sort of like pre-qualification questions that you're not even going to call them if they don't answer these questions like you want them to, and it saves your time. Shoot them a link. I think that's super solid.
Yeah, I'm
Super solid.
blown away by the fact that you're able to get these people on the phone and they're actually good candidates, because majority of people that have reached out through Facebook or just anywhere that haven't gone through that one next step, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's such a waste of
Yeah.
time. So that's just been my experience. Pascal, is there
Yeah.
anything? Because I know you've done both and now you're kind of getting lead flow from Pad Split.
Yeah, I mean, I do a similar. I have a screening call after they go through the whole rigmarole with pad split. You know, I'm really just trying to understand, are they nice? Are they rude? You know, you wouldn't believe how many people, you know, are just like not professional or rude, you know, when they hop on that first call. And it's like, you know, I don't need to rent this to you.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm asking them a lot of the same questions again. I'm really trying to understand their story and see if it matches what they're telling me. You know, I've had people you know, are they moving in with a partner or with kids or with dogs or with, you know, and it's like, are they just trying, my model's a little different, right? And so you know, are they just staying for a week? Like, are they trying to do a short term? Or are they looking for long term, like another apartment to go to? And this is just like a stopgap, or is this like um, you know, they're looking for their next place to live? Have they been in shared housing before? Do they know what that is? You
That's
know, I
good.
think that's one of the biggest, you know, if they're like, oh yeah, I've lived at like another pad split or a co-living before, it's like, all right, great. Like I don't, you know, I don't need to worry as much versus someone who's new. They don't really like understand. I don't have as much of a community aspect in mine. You know, I think the homes that I have where there is community, I have the longest tenant tenure in those. And then in others, you know, I haven't been able to get there yet. And I think that just takes time, honestly, and filtering enough. But yeah, I mean, I'm asking them, hey, you know, are you bringing a car? You know, because we say, hey, we only have X number of car slots here, and if they are bringing a car that they haven't registered as part of their application, we have to deny them. We can't. You know, for us, we're willing to let the rooms sit longer rather than potentially deal with, you know, more legal issues. Um, yeah.
I want to highlight what you just said right there. I mean, not so much the legal issue part, but just like let the room sit if it's not a good fit. Ooh, that rock. Yo,
Ooh.
someone take that. That was off the fly.
Oh
That was
man.
good. Let the room sit if it's not a good fit.
Hey, you
So,
know what? That is that's only a skill I think you learn by doing it wrong. You know,
whoa,
because
yeah, it's
I
true.
think
Guilty.
all of us have been in a situation where you're just like, fuck, I need to get this room rented. And I think the learning for me over time has been that if I'm struggling to rent the room and I'm at the point where I'm willing to let someone in at a that's not a good fit, it's much better to reduce the rent and get higher quality people or more people doing it from which you can find a higher quality tenant than to have them come in and be a wrecking ball.
So true. We can, gosh, this is already going by so fast. I want to touch on a couple of things real quick. For me personally, when I'm hopping on calls, number one thing, they gotta be positive. Like if they're not a positive person, and I even ask like super random question, but have you ever heard the saying like glass half full or glass half empty? Like what would you choose? And if they don't, and honestly, like it's a stupid question, but they then get excited because they know that, oh, of course it's glass, half full. And I'm like, okay, cool, you're my people. So that's something that I just ask kind of for fun, just to see what kind of mindset they have. And if they give me any negative pushback, but they say glass half full, I'm like, you're negative. So I like
I like
use that
that.
question just to have fun with someone, to see their personality, and also if they're positive. And also you got to make sure, I guess, red flags. We could do quick red flags. Red flags, which is hard to tell before they move in, but it's if they're clean. And I don't know. I've gotten pretty lucky where I just ask them like, "Hey, are you clean?" Or like, if you have dishes in the sink, do you ever leave dishes in the sink? This is community, and I hyper emphasize that, and they're like, "No, dude, like I'm totally down with that." Then it's totally cool. So I make sure they're clean, and then not. This is one. Not too many questions. They're asking me like, Jesse, what's the square footage? Can you send me pictures of the closet? Like, bro, you only see pictures of the closet. Can I come tonight for a tour? Like, no. Like, so like people that just like keep on nagging with extra questions, almost 90% of the time, I'm like, hey man, it's probably not a good fit, because at the end of the day, if they're gonna come in here and just ask everyone a bunch of questions, it's just people need to be laid back. That's what I figured out. Like, in order to join a co-living community or a house, having a laid back, positive vibe and personality, 1000% is going to be such a better candidate for the house. So, what about, real quick, what are some red flags for you guys when you're on calls or just applications or anything?
Yeah, I think those are really good. I don't have a ton to add to. I mean, obviously, we pick a minimums credit score. We'll look over like school debt. We'll look over medical debt. But if there's a lot of other outstanding consumer debt that they're just not paying on, that's going to be a red flag for us. We're going to look at criminal history, like obviously
Yeah.
really intensely. I mean, that's kind of an obvious one, but like you're going to want to look that over. And then you're also going to want to do an eviction check, right? Do they have past evictions? If so, again, Jesse, you're kind of going after, I think, a little higher, demographic here, but little higher class demographic. But what's their eviction history in the past? And we used to kind of try to fudge that and say, okay, well, they had one, but there's a different story now. And we just found like we ended up evicting the people who have had evictions. Like they're not afraid of it. They've gone through it before. They know how to work the system. And so that's a pretty big red flag for us as well.
Man, I don't want to say this, but I do want to say this. Once you get a certain age, people don't change.
Mm,
Like, there's a very small percentage of people that actually change.
yeah,
So you want to give them shots, you want to give them chances, like
yeah,
maybe talk to people, like their references, and ask them specific questions to try to like
yeah.
dig a little deeper. But 90% of the time, 99 is people don't change. It's kind of
That's right.
sad, but it's really the reality.
That's right.
I don't have any I think you guys have covered the red flags. I think something that I do is I actually have video cameras in all of the common areas. So
Mm,
we've actually gotten on tape people stealing other people's food, people leaving dishes in the sink, and we fine people when we see that. Usually what happens is another roommate reports it. And then we go look at the camera and verify it. And then we find the person and tell them if they do it again, they're kicked out. And at first I was very hesitant to do video cameras, and I didn't do video cameras for like 6 years, and it's been a game changer. I wouldn't run it without. And actually, tenants start to love it because they know that everything's being recorded, and they're a little safer. And what I do on my screening calls is I tell them that. I'm like, hey, you know what? Like, I'm just gonna tell you a little bit about the expectations of what you should expect when you're moving into the home. Like, hey, we have a cleaning closet that's got a bunch of stuff, and there's 2 fridges, so plenty of room for your stuff. And if you we have someone that comes and cleans once a month, and we have security cameras in the common areas. So if you see people leaving dishes in the sink, or if you see any theft of any kind, or someone's taking your food or what, please let us know. We absolutely kick those people out immediately. So you should feel safe there. And what happens is there are
subtle.
people that respond and they're like, oh my God, thank you. Like, I've been in all these other shared situations and people leave their dishes in the sink. And it's like probably the number one complaint if you've ever lived with anyone, right?
Number one.
Um, And we solved that with cameras and being disciplined and following through. And we've also had a significant number of people get off that call and then decide that they don't want to move there anymore. And I think that's all
Filters.
done with proper expectation setting. You know, if you tell them, hey, if they're messy and you're like, hey, we're going to kick you out if you're messy, it's like, I'll just go find another place, you know?
So good. I think that's the biggest thing.
It's huge.
Like obviously vet well, but just like the expectation, set that up front so that they know what they're walking into. I
We
think
do a
I've kind of
lot of expectation
slacked on
setting.
that lately. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, we are running out of time. Let's have some fun. Everyone wants to hear this. Probably not, but we're gonna tell you anyways. Horror story. So I can go, honestly, I haven't had too many, but there's one that me and Sam talked about. I can go either the penny bandit, but that was an Airbnb. That was a co-living. So we have to talk about that one. They listen to my podcast. You want to hear the story of the penny bandit. But another one was me and Sam actually were talking about this when we were in Colombia. We are hiking up. What was the three crosses? What was it?
The Trail of the Three Crosses. Yeah.
Bro, this is on Christmas.
Yeah. And Jesus picked us up.
Yeah, Jesus picked us up in the Uber and we hiked up the three crosses. It was an incredible time. But
Pascal, you would have been tripping. It was Christmas Day. We're hiking the Trail of the Three Crosses on Christmas Day, and I just go order a random Uber, and it's Jesus. The guy's name was Jesus. It was awesome. It was
I love that.
it was incredible. But real quick, the story. We had someone who I thought was going to be a good fit, a little bit younger than our typical demographic, which I'm totally fine with. Good references. Ended up happening was a car accident. Kind of got hooked on some of the pain medication, and so I was looking back. I'm like, man, maybe I couldn't. Like, I probably wouldn't have been able to see this happen. But it's a sad story. But person got hooked on the pain medication, started taking more than he needed to, and we had to do a 30-day eviction because other people in the house were complaining about his behavior. And so nothing was crazy. And then the day that he got evicted, I'm open to share this story because people need to hear like what actually could happen and might happen and does happen. We had one of his friends come into the house and actually take one of the TVs and like drive away. And then I talked to Sam, like, Sam, what should I do? Should I pursue legal stuff? And basically just came to the realization that it's really not worth the struggle. Let's just get him into a new situation that's better for him. And so long story short, I was way stressed out, but now if it ever happened again, I wouldn't be because it's always the first time that's going to be the worst. So if you're going through some and have eviction, which is unfortunate, this is going to be probably the worst because then you're going to understand the process and next time will be easier. You're able to vet people better. Like we just raised our hand. We've all had these things happen. That's why we have these certain processes in place. And what's that rhyme we just came up with? If the room's empty,
not a good fit. Let the room
yeah,
sit.
I would. So just make sure to remember that. So that's my story about, a little bit of a horror story. I had to deal with that for a couple of days, but at the end of the day, it was, it's worth it to do this business because the cash flow is crazy. One other thing I'll mention compared to any other real estate asset class is if an AC unit goes out and you're doing single family, not rent by the room, just normal, guess what? You're making probably $500 max in cash flow. AC unit goes out, your whole year is done. Cash flow all into that AC unit. For us, it's like, oh, that's just 1 month, maybe. And so that's just something that I want to always talk about because people talk about, these things going out and cost to the house. But because we have such a great cash flowing type of asset and business, it's so worth it. Who wants to go next as we wrap up?
Take it, Pascal. I'll finish on this one.
Yeah, look, I think if you've been in the business long enough, you have everything happen to you, right? Sam and I have been doing this over a decade. I've had actually this year I had 3 people die within 6 weeks. I've had someone be I have a lot of people that are on Social Security. Those are my favorite kind of people. They never move, they're quiet, and they always get pay because they've got someone paying for them. But they yeah, I mean, I've had people that have had cancer for years and they finally pass away. People drug overdose. People, I've had people pull guns on other tenants and have it all on video. And, um, Yeah. You're dealing with people,
That went deep real quick and dark.
I mean, you're dealing with
Jesse, I
people,
hate to
right?
say this, you got your TV stolen, but Pascal's deaths and guns, dude. I think he
Dude,
wins.
I am
I'm here like,
unfazed at
guys,
this
I will
point.
share this story.
I'm unfazed at this point. I have 104 units, and I've been doing this for a long time, and it's like I'm dealing with a different income demographic. I'm dealing with a lower socioeconomic demographic. It's very different than how I started in Texas. But yeah, I mean, it's part of the. I mean, now it's unfazed. At first, it was like, all right, well, who picks up the body? What's the process? How long do we leave the room? Like, let the family come and grab their stuff out of the room. Um, what who's cleaning up the mess? Like, my maintenance guy was like, he found maggots where the body was, and it's you'll see it all. I mean, it's what you get paid for. It's part of what you get paid for.
Sam, go
I
ahead.
think I feel like that's a good place to end. Like, I don't know.
This is a
But
depressing
I
way to end
100%
it.
agree. We've had people pass away in the homes. Maybe the one I would add was I had a guy. I've never had a guy pull a gun. But I have had a guy pull a knife. Supposedly he grabbed one of the kitchen knives and came after two of the girls in the house, and they started reporting him, and then he just like locked himself in his room. But you'll see some weird stuff. But I think to end it on a positive note, that just to reiterate what Pascal said, it's part of the game. And I think there's a cash flow element to this game that we've talked about for the last couple hours, and there is a huge mission element to this as well.
Yeah.
I mean, 600,000 people will be homeless tonight in America. 600,000, right? We're not talking this is a small issue. This is a huge issue, and that number is growing. So I believe it's worth it. And we hope that everybody listening thinks so as well. It's cool to be in a game where you can lay your head to bed at night every night knowing you made a difference, you're making a difference, and you're making money. And the marriage of those two things don't always come along, and so it's cool to see them come along. So I'm honored and proud to be here, Pascal. This was a huge learning experience for me, guys, as well, just from both of you. So thank you for the opportunity, and just, yeah, beautiful.
Man,
Thank you,
beautiful
Jesse.
way to wrap up. Of course, man. No, I'm so grateful that you guys hopped on. I guess to end it, Pascal, just kind of like tell the people what you got working on. I know you got a couple projects, and then we'll have Sam kind of wrap it up with that.
Yeah. So hey guys, the best way to find me is on LinkedIn, honestly. And co-living is just a portfolio that I have on the side, but I primarily focus on helping accredited investors build a passive income generating portfolio by investing with other operators. And so if you want to be more passive instead of active, I encourage you to go to growyourcashflow.io and get my starter kit.
Love it. Sam, how do people connect with you? What you got working on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Thanks again for the opportunity. Instagram is a great way to just kind of follow. I put a lot of content about co-living. It's kind of what I'm really all in on right now. We're building some buildings from the ground up that I'm really excited about. I teach, I coach, and then we've got and then we manage. So we manage, we teach, we coach, and we build. And so if people want to just follow me on Instagram at Sam Wegert, Wegert is Wegert. Or if they're interested in doing a more deep dive into co-living, they can go to scaleyourrealestate.com and just register for a challenge. I do these 5-day challenges, like an hour or two a day, of just co-living content, bring on guests and kind of deep dive into it and do some live Q&A, et cetera, et cetera. So they can go there and grab some content as well and get on the waiting list for the next one at scaleyourrealestate.com. But again, Jesse, thanks again, man. Had a lot of fun. Thanks again, Pascal.
Likewise.
Appreciate you, brother.
Absolutely. And I'll just say one quick thing. Like, if you've listened to this point, you're interested. So there is no reason. It's completely free to go to Sam's 5-day Scale Your Real Estate. Like I said, I hopped on when I was already, quote unquote, crushing it in co-living. And I added $24,000 to my pocket in just the first year because of that co-living challenge. So I want to say thank you, Sam, for being kind of a mentor to me and walking me through my crazy horror story.
Yeah, thanks.
So appreciate you guys. I'll put everything in the show description, but we'll end right there, and I'll end on Pascal's quote. It's not free to get a high return. So I'll end it.